It was the sickest time of my life. It just created so many problems. This podiatrist did surgery on people's feet, and she happened to mention at the time, it's interesting when I do surgery on vegans that the tissue is always gray. I said, what? Our bodies are kind of similar to animals, right? And so what we're seeing in human bodies.
There are a lot of organizations in America, Canada, that say it's safe for children and at all stages of life. Are there reasons to doubt that, or are you worried about that?
I get most of my great content by looking at what everyone else is doing and then going the exact opposite direction. This has been true so many times.
What symptoms was it creating for you, and when was it that you decided to shift?
The question is, can you get healthy by eating sick animals or sick plants? So mood changes, cognitive improvements, people feeling dementia, all of a sudden not feeling dementia, lots of energy, great profiles, less medication, great cholesterol profiles, no longer having diabetes. Some people can do it, other people can't. I've worked with tens of thousands of people, and very few of them were able to pull it off successfully.
I'd love to know your thoughts on that. Hi everyone, we are in for a real treat today. We have Dr. Berg. He's basically a famous doctor of natural medicine. He's trained thousands of doctors himself, authored at least 7 books, tens of millions of followers, and a trusted health professional, someone I've looked up to and watched many times to learn all the things about holistic nutrition and health. So welcome to the docuseries and Do the Show.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
You're absolutely welcome. And so just to start us off, will you tell us a little bit about your story? How did you become so passionate about holistic health, and what got you to where you are today?
I know I'm going to keep this really short because sometimes people go on and on and on. I basically was the perfect consumer that had no information about health or nutrition at all. Zero. In fact, the opposite. I was a junk food junkie. I ate pure sugar, never ate anything green except pistachio ice cream and lime green jello. I mean, I just didn't have any attention. And I did fine until I got into my 20s, and then I started going downhill, bam, bam, bam. So I started trying this and trying that. I would go to every health food store trying this vitamin, that vitamin. I had a warehouse. I did try to be a vegan at that time, and honestly, it was the sickest time of my life. It just created so many problems. So it wasn't until I read, I think, this book called The Zone, where I learned about insulin resistance, and then I started to cut down the carbs, and it was just like a light bulb that just went off, and I just started feeling so much better. So that just kind of flipped things upside down. I was in practice at the time. I was actually very sick at the time. I was probably one of the sickest patients that I've ever had. I was taking care of these people. So that radically changed my viewpoint and got me interested now because I had a personal problem. I think a lot of people get into it because they had a problem. I started becoming obsessed with it and studying night and day. So I was in practice for 30 years, and then I started doing YouTube at the end of that 30 years. And I just really enjoyed doing the videos and teaching, and that took a lot of time. So I had to choose what I'm going to do. So, I mean, it takes at least for one video, it takes at least 8 hours of research and preparation and stuff like that. So then I made the transition. So I went more YouTube. So that's grown over the years. And now we're in different languages, and we have about, I think, 18 million subscribers. We get 100 million views a month. And that's just much more rewarding because I'm reaching out and helping more and more people. And of course, the reason I got hooked up with you is through a study that we evaluated the difference between grain-fed and grass-fed beef. And because, I'm now living on a farm, because you really can't get someone healthy without really understanding the food and where it's grown and the soil and all that. So that's kind of where I am right now, doing a lot of research on my own property and, digging more into like we did the beef study. I'm sure we'll talk about that. But the point is that there's a huge difference between the stuff you get at the grocery store and the stuff that you actually go get from a farmer that really cares, So yeah, anyway, that's my story in a thumbnail sketch.
That was beautifully stated. And I have the utmost respect for your work. Like I said, I'm so glad you made that transition. And I want to talk about that beef study, of course, and what's wrong with conventional ag and all the data you found. But first, you mentioned something that I'd like a little bit more elaboration on, and that was just the vegan diet. What symptoms was it creating for you? And when was it that you decided to shift?
Reflecting back, I think you have to be extremely healthy to be a vegan.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't able to tolerate all the the beans and the grains and it just ripped me up. I mean, like I would literally be in my bed every time we went on a vacation. I was sick. I was like, in the bathroom. I was just my digestive system was just tore up. It was so bad, and I was completely tired. My blood sugars were an issue up and down. It was really hard to get the quality protein. It was really hard to get the quality fats, and there was just too many carbs. I was doing the carrot juice and I was doing beans, and I'm like, this is supposed to be healthy. I'm like, no. And this podiatrist did surgery on people's feet, and she happened to mention at the time, it's interesting when I do surgery on vegans that the tissue is always gray. I said, what?
Huh.
Yeah, it's not even red. It's like it should be nice and red. It's actually gray. It's like there's a lot of anemia and things like that. And I think for me, I was very anemic.
Mm.
Um, so it did not work. It's just very difficult to get the right nutrients, and some people can do it, other people can't. I've worked with tens of thousands of people, and very few of them were able to pull it off successfully. So they make it sound like it's the healthy thing, but that quickly changes when they start doing it. And then they say, well, it's good for the planet. Well, okay, but what about your health? Like you're tearing up your health. You have mood issues and blood sugar issues. So, I mean, I think there is a way to do it, but it's not easy and it's difficult, and you have to be extremely healthy and a really good digestive system to tolerate a lot of the fiber as well.
Yeah. And I know that this is, just within your population, you're not making any claims, but two follow-up questions. What percentage, if you had to put a percentage on it, of people did you see? Because like you said, I've seen it work too. I have a fitness friend. She is killing it. She's doing
Yeah.
great. She looks great. What do you say? What percentage is working for? And there are a lot of organizations in America, Canada, that say it's safe for children and at all stages of life. Are there reasons to doubt that, or are you worried about that?
The absolute worst time to be a vegan is when you're pregnant or when you're having or lactating or even a small child. I mean, just think about the bioavailability of nutrients. I mean, vitamin A, they changed the definition to mean beta carotene. That's not the retinol. That's not the active form. It has to be converted. So if you're depending on your vitamin A from plants, good luck. You're not going to get it. Not to mention on top of all the DNA weaknesses that people have. I just had my DNA tested, and I have a big problem with converting beta carotene into retinol. So retinol only comes from like things like red meat and liver and egg yolks and butter. You can't get it from plants. So you got vitamin A, which is really important, and even making antibodies to help, tag viruses and pathogens. It's kind of like a little guy that goes out there and identifies who's the bad guy and the good guy. So vitamin A is really, really important. And then you have, what about iron? You have a different form of iron in red meat. You don't have the bioavailable iron that you get. Like spinach is just like, it's not the right type of iron. So red meat, of course, again, is really important. Zinc, same thing. If you just take a look at our requirements and what we need, most of the vitamins that come from animal products as far as bioavailability, there are a couple that come from vegetables. And that's why I like the balance of both. You have vitamin C. I mean, it's really high in sauerkraut, greens, salads. And then you also have minerals like potassium and magnesium, which you can get from meat, but you can also you can get probably more from plants. So I always recommend a good portion of plant-based stuff, but with the protein as well, both. So I think I eat more plants than any vegan that I've ever met. I have like 7 to 10 cups every single day, but I always have the high quality protein because that's where I get all the other nutrition. So I think I went off on a tangent. So go
I
ahead
love
and
that
get back.
tangent. The only other question was, what percentage did you see it working for in the vegan?
Oh,
Yeah.
I would say maybe 3% of the people. There's a couple of people that stand out. I mean, they do it right. Like they really go the extra effort to make sure the quality is there. They're not doing the soy protein isolate burgers. They're fermenting a lot of their beans and stuff. Most of them are vegetarian, so they do have a little egg, which is great.
Yeah.
But the actual pure vegans, it's a little bit far in between. And I know you can do it. I don't know very many vegans, but a lot more vegetarians.
Okay, that's great. And last question on this topic. Do you think, like you said, some people can get away with it? Supplementation is is always an adequate replacement for food?
No. I mean, I always recommend if you're going to supplement, which I think you need to because the food is so poor quality. You try to get as many nutrients from the food, but to eat crap in and add the vitamins on top of it's not going to work. And plus, the fact that most of the vitamins now are just synthetic. If you let's just take, and I forgot to mention DHA, which is an omega-3 fatty acid. Yes, if you're a vegan, you can get it from algae, but it's not the same as from fish oils or cod liver oil. So, I mean, you have this cod liver oil has the omega-3, the DHA and the EPA, and then also vitamin A and vitamin D. So it's it's even better than regular fish oils. Again, there's a way you can get it, but it's much more difficult.
I love that. And yes, like you said, if we had to put you in a bucket in terms of what you follow, what is your dietary philosophy? Could you give it a name? What do you eat on a regular
I
basis?
think I'm a vegan on a via. I eat animals that eat grass, but no, I'm actually split right down the middle. I have a good portion of plants and herbs and things like that, but I also have a really good wide range of animal products and eggs and fish and definitely beef, which I raise my own. So I'm right in the middle, and I do what's called like the healthy version of the ketogenic diet because keto is just low carb. It doesn't tell you about the quality, you
Yeah.
know. So I really focus on the quality and low carb. And that's really what I'm researching right now, how to grow food that actually contributes to your health. It doesn't take away, especially it's difficult at the grocery store right now just because you have, the way that there's no transparency with the growing methods. Like I went to Europe for a month and went to these farms and I was amazed to see how much more they care about their growing methods compared to America. Unfortunately, it's really bad. But so I'm really interested in learning about that and sharing these ideas with other farmers and then also with people so they can go to their local community and get food from the farmers market or people that hook you up with great farmers that are really caring about the land. Very important.
Absolutely. And that was my next question, actually. If you could go into that, what is the relationship between agriculture and human health? How exactly does this translate?
Yeah, there's a really interesting book. I'll just hold this up here. So Soil, Grass,
Ooh.
and Cancer. This is by
Wow.
Andre Folson. It's classic. He's a farmer slash scientist who did studies on between human, animal, and soil. Right. So he looked at the animals and even humans that had cancer, and then he looked at the soil. And at that time when he was doing research, it was all local stuff. So he found that certain things missing from the soil that created problems in the animal that created problems in the human. So the question is, can you get healthy by eating sick animals
Mm.
or sick plants or sick soil? So how do we identify the fertility of the soil and then fertility of the animal and how that relates to human health? So I'm doing a huge deep dive in this. So I even have some researchers coming to my farm when we're doing experiments as we speak to really figure this out. And we're starting with the soil. And then we're just going to promote that on my YouTube channel because I think it's a really interesting topic. And there's a big lack of research in this area. So we tend to buy food on weight, but not on density of nutrition. But then
Mm.
how is that defined? So I bought all sorts of equipment to evaluate that. And even in our animals, some of the animals do have grains, but it's not soy. And then we ferment it for 3 days.
Yeah.
And so that gives a whole different angle to the nutrition of that animal.
Well, that's amazing. Yeah. And we're going to get into exactly what you're doing on your farm and how you even got into farming. I mean, I think I understand, but still, I'm kind of wondering. So in terms of the link between plants, animals, humans, I know we're at a time when the nutrient levels in our soil are lower than they've ever been. So is it a lack of something, or is it something that we're using in conventional agriculture? So in other words, what are the big problems you see with the way that we are conducting agriculture today?
There's one study that was done that looked at all the different soil minerals throughout different parts of the world and in the US. And there's not apparently a big deficiency of minerals. Now, that's a general comment, it's really the biology, it's the microbial life in that soil that's missing, that mobilizes the microbes. I mean, that mobilizes the nutrients, so the minerals, so the plant can pull it in there. And also the microbes that actually are absorbed by the plant. The plant has a microbiome. It has completely filled with microbes and it eats microbes to get nutrition the majority of nutrition from a plant comes from the microbe, and
Mm.
because the microbe has the nutrition. So that's really the missing factor. Now, why is that missing? Well, because we use glyphosate, chemicals, and then we feed. We have to use a lot of inputs, NPK, things like that to try. It's kind of like treating a patient with an IV with just keeping them alive. That's pretty much what we're doing to make this tomato look good, but it's just completely empty. So that's really the problem. And then the poor farmer, they're stuck between a rock and a hard place, because if you are subsidized, then you're dependent on what they tell you to grow. And so you have that factor, right? And then you also have, the cost of selling. Well, a lot of these crops are regulated by commodities, and so they can't even set their own prices. So the poor farmer is just stuck between a rock and a hard place right now. And this is why I'm really interested in this area, to kind of just learn about it and promote, increase the demand for local farmers that care, that do a good job and grow animals to eat and plants, and I think that is the area that we need to focus on. So that's where I'm at right now.
I love that. And we're going to go there right now, but I just need to know, are you concerned about, because you raise cattle, hormones, antibiotics, are these the things that we're giving to our animals? Do you think those are concerns for human health?
Yeah. Oh, totally. Totally. I mean, the amount of hormones. And unfortunately, when you feed these animals grains, boy, you just completely and utterly, and I'm talking about GMO grains. So we got the glyphosate in there. We throw off the pH. Now, I just had the vet at our house because we had a problem with an animal. And I wanted to know the inside scoop of what happens to some of these animals. I mean, a lot of the animals that are grain fed, they're having all this gastritis, ulcers. And so they have to treat them. And you're trying to grow an animal with hormones, and then you have to put them on antibiotics. So it's really bad to the core as far as adding all these things. They're just screwing up the planet doing that. And it's unfortunately, there's a lot of politics involved. Greenwash everything to make it sound really natural, but when in all reality, I went to the Acres USA convention, which is a farming convention, talked to these farmers that use no chemicals, no hormones, and they have a completely different view. They're able to do it, and they're just trying to get the word out to get more farmers to do that. But people sometimes are stuck in their ways. But what I want to do is increase the awareness from the consumer, so then there's more demand for the right thing, and just shift it off some of all this other stuff that's just not going to contribute to their health.
Amazing. Yeah. One of the most egregious examples of that greenwashing is the fact that you can label something made in America if it was just processed here, like beef.
I
Could be
know.
flown in. It makes me so angry. Okay, so tell us, obviously you're putting your money where your mouth is, because you're not only like a leading doctor and YouTube star, but also you are a farmer. So tell us, like, what prompted you? What was the moment you decided to become a farmer, rancher? And what does your ranch look like?
I'm just tried to find some food that was healthy, and I had a hard time doing it. So and then it kind of led me to the soil. And then I'm like, wow, this is interesting. This is fascinating. So I just got really interested. So I got some land, and I have a farm, and I have, sheep, goats, pigs,
Mhm.
chickens, huge garden. So some wild horses that I have. So we just have this farm, and I'm really enjoying the whole thing. And it's like my lab to be able to figure things out. And because some of these gurus on YouTube, they've never been in practice, so they've been researchers or something, and then they give advice. So if you don't actually physically grow things or take care of animals or experience the whole thing, it's going to be hard for you to understand it and teach it and tell people, give them advice. So like right now, I wouldn't even say I'm a farmer. I'm just learning, but I am definitely studying it hardcore, and then also trying things out to see what works, but relating it to human health a lot more, because a lot of times a farmer is so focused on farming, they have a hard time, bridging the gap. So I'm trying to link all these things and look at taking the broad view of what it's going to take to pull off a healthy cow to then, to have someone consume it and actually get healthy.
Yeah, it's absolutely fascinating, right? The more you learn that you don't know, and that how important experience is. And so I'm wondering, was there anything in particular that really surprised you during this transition from just doctor to doctor farmer?
Well, I went into this thinking I knew a lot more than I really did. And then the more I learned, the more I realized, oh, we don't have clue what's going on. But there's some basic things we do know. Going back to nature, the biology, trying to figure out what nature is doing, and then do that, more of that, right? Rather than trying to add too many amendments. Okay, well, why don't we just grow cover crops? Okay, good. So that's going to put the nitrogen in the soil. So I'm the kind of guy that does not usually follow the status quo or the conventional. I always am going the opposite direction. I don't drink the Kool-Aid on if everyone else is doing it. I'm always suspect. If it's because I just find in human health, I get most of my great content by looking at what everyone else is doing and then going the exact opposite direction. This has been true so many times, especially if people are saying, well, oh, the science is settled. I'm like, okay, so right now I'm suspect of what you're saying there. And I'm definitely going to look in the opposite direction. So if someone tells me to don't look at something, I'm going to look at that. If someone says, oh, this is the way it is, I'm like, yeah, well, let me make sure it is before I jump in.
Oh, that's so important. Your type of people are my people. Like my husband's that way. My little boy that is that way, even though it's very frustrating to raise someone who is always against you. But I'm so glad you are that way. So let's talk about the Beef Nutrient Density Project. So I was lucky enough to come across your data working with Dr. Van Vliet. And the whole aim of the project is to validate this, hypotheses that we have, which just seems like a very logical hypothesis, that the health of the soil is related to the health of the plants, this is related to the health of animals, is also related to the health of humans, right? And so can you talk about why did you decide to become involved in this project, and what did the process look like for you?
Well, I really wanted to find out. I wanted to be involved in finding out how do we identify healthy beef or healthy plants? Is there a measurement? Is there a tool? Is there a test? And there's not a lot of tests out there. I mean, all the tests that are out there that are like handheld units, I have them. But as far as the beef project, this is something you have to send your beef in. I sent some beef from a cow that I had. So I think it took a bit of time to do the research, but I was very pleasantly surprised in what we found, because the researcher just called me up, and he's like, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" I'm like, "Why? Why?" He says, "There's something about your beef that's very different than some of the other farms." So I was really pleasantly surprised to see the results on that, and then to try to then what I think explains these amazing results. But yeah, so I'm just interested in like, okay, the project, and then I want to participate. So it was a really interesting finding, and I think you're going to get into that because you're the one that's kind of evaluating all the data and talking to the farmers. So I'll let you.
Yeah. So I will share a little bit about what I know about your farm. I do the fatty acids specifically, and we'll talk about phytonutrients. I kind of read your report and saw it was pretty remarkable. So I'll let you talk about that one. But as far as your ratios, omega-6 to omega-3 fatty acid ratios, right? So in typical grass-fed beef, one recent trial showed that it was anywhere, from 3-to-1 to 28-to-1 most of the time, because grass-fed isn't regulated, right? So people could be finishing cattle on grain. Yours was a 1.473. That's amazing. That's almost that 1-to-1 ratio that we're looking for. You also had higher levels of EPA, DPA, DHA, ALA, CLA, and lower levels of LA, linoleic acid. And then higher levels of long chain saturated fatty acids that are thought to be protective of cardiovascular disease. So I was thoroughly impressed. So I don't know, because I think I want you to talk about that more. Why don't you tell me what we found in your fatty acids that really resonated, surprised you, or inspired you?
If you talk about an indicator for health, especially right now, everyone has like this inflammatory thing going on in your brain and the gut and everything. So wouldn't it make sense to eat food that is anti-inflammatory, that's going to help get rid of inflammation? Most people are eating grain-fed beef and grains that are heavy on the 6 and low on the 3, and they're basically making their inflammation worse. So I am so fortunate to have my cattle like it's really good ratios, almost a 1-to-1, which means it's going to help get rid of inflammation. And it's interesting because when I eat that beef, I feel so much better. And I even offered because I can't sell it because I'm not prepared, but I had some friends. I said, did you want some? And they go, no, I'm good. And of course, now that they know the results, because I told them, now they're all wanting my beef. And I'm like, I've changed my mind. I think I'm going to keep all of it and start eating it. But also, I was 3 times more than most farmers, even the grass-fed, on the phytonutrients, which is mind-blowing because I never knew that plant-based chemicals are in beef. Okay. And there's a lot of different ones. And so you're getting this benefit of the plant via the beef. I mean, it's just amazing. So we got the phytonutrients, very super high, than more than anyone else, vitamin B3 with niacin, which is so healthy for so many things. And then also one of the lowest levels of advanced glycated end products, which is like kind of an indication for diabetes. I had no idea cattle had that, and that made sense. I mean, versus a grain fed. So, I mean, that's kind of a diabetic marker. And then homocysteine, very low homocysteine, which is a bad marker. So that I was happy to see that. So there was like 800 markers, and there's a lot of different things. But I mean, if you think about it, our bodies are kind of similar to animals, right? And so what we're seeing in human bodies is a lot of metabolic syndrome. So what I'm seeing on this report, I'm just going to give you my interpretation, and seeing these some of these animals that are grain fed have metabolic syndrome. I mean, based on the data. So if you're eating an animal that has metabolic syndrome, can you actually create health? I don't know. I don't think so. So I'd much prefer consuming athlete muscle than a diabetic muscle. I mean, that's just me.
No, I think you're absolutely spot on. And that is one of the most fascinating areas of this research for me too. Mitochondrial dysfunction, oxidative stress, ages, all the things seen in the cattle. I think that's fascinating. So let's define a few things for people, just in case they're new to this topic. So omega-6 to omega-3 fatty acid, that ratio is thought to is believed to impact levels of inflammation. Can you describe that in a way that people can understand?
Well, there's certain fats that cause inflammation, and there's certain fats that get rid of inflammation. And unfortunately, most people, and I even had myself tested long ago, and I was way off the charts. So if you're consuming all the omega-6 oils, that would be like the corn oil or the corn, the soy oil or the soy, the canola, the cottonseed, even the safflower, even the peanut oil, they're all omega-6, and all the grains are omega-6. But then we have the omega-3, which is like the fish oils, the cod liver oil, and of course, even beef that eat grass, that's omega-3 fatty acids. So these are really important. So when you have this problem, this ratio that's too far on the inflammation, and you want to correct it, you can't just consume omega-3 fatty acids at the same time when you're consuming omega-6. You have to avoid the 6 because they're competitory, so they compete. So you have to increase the 3 and decrease the 6. Now there's also another thing that turns into the omega-3, the active form, which is a DHA, or the EPA DHA, is ALA. And that's kind of in walnuts. It's in some other things. And so you'll hear people, like even vegetarians or vegans, go, oh yeah, I do a lot of omega-3. I said, no, you're doing the precursor, ALA. And to convert that, I mean, you're not going to convert much. It's not going to be significant. So when you have someone being a vegetarian, obviously it's really hard for them to consume more 3 than 6. So they're going to be really heavy on the 6, and chances are they're going to have a lot of inflammatory issues.
Yeah. And there is this prevailing belief that the absolute amount of polyunsaturated fats in cows, beef specifically, is pretty small. So it is purported that it doesn't really matter, but there is research to the contrary. I'd love to know your thoughts on that. Do you think that the omega-3s in beef can be a significant source of these omega-3 fatty acids?
Yeah, that's kind of an unknown thing now. We don't know, but we do know there's something in there. Okay, there's something in there, and we're gonna do more research as we go. But we're always looking at quantity. People want to know like how much levels, but I'm also looking myself at the quality of the complex and all the other associated factors. I'll just give you one example from plants. Curcumin, that's kind of like everyone's talking about curcumin in turmeric, right? When you take curcumin, people are taking it as an anti-inflammatory, but if you take it in the natural form, turmeric, which by the way, if you do that, you're going to have a lot less curcumin. it has a much, much better effect. Why? Because there's many other additional things. There's a lot of curcuminoids, like there's a lot of them. There's a lot of other associated factors that we don't know about. So I always like to eat things in the whole form, and they tend to work better, not necessarily focus on massive spiked amounts. That's not always the best thing.
Right.
Yeah.
I love that. And now back to the phytonutrients. So like I said, I read your report, and I saw the tone, like, wow, your phytochemicals, phytonutrients, so much higher than most other farms. So tell us, what do you think is driving that? And why should we be excited about plant chemicals in our beef? If people believe that beef is damaging, but we have research to suggest eating them together, could mitigate that. Like, what excites you about phytonutrients in beef?
This is a very interesting finding, because I talked to Professor James White on this topic, and he studies microbes in plants. Okay. So he studies this, did it for like, I don't know, 30 years. So I talked to him and I said, now, what's going on here? So he said that he first of all asked about my land, and honestly, I have a very different land I've been other farmers. It's mostly weeds and very little grass.
Wow.
So this is what he said. He said, because you have so many variety of weeds, because sometimes farmers just have like several grasses, right? Weeds, first of all, have more microbes than grass. And so also the variety of weeds means the variety of microbes. And microbes are primarily responsible for making these phytonutrients. So now we're dealing with the microbiome in the plant. And so when you talk about a probiotic, like these cows are eating probiotics all the time, and from the plants. And so that you can imagine we have this such diversified microbiome. We're getting a massively diversified phytonutrient, antioxidant, profile. And so what's the significance of that? Well, apparently it's very significant. I found another farmer who teaches her cows to eat weeds. And I'm like, what? And she was kind of like laughed at, because like, what are you feeding your cows to eat weeds? She goes, I find out once they just don't eat them because they're just not used to it. But when they do, they like them, and it's nutritious. Not all weeds, but a lot of them. So now I come in there, and I didn't even try to do this. I just stumbled on it. Well, guess what? Apparently, you can actually have a better profile feeding cows a variety of weeds than necessarily just the grasses. Now, there's more data to be gotten on that, but so far that's kind of my thought on that. And I think this also relates to when you eat food and you have it's like plants. Like if you just have the same iceberg lettuce every single day. So what I'm doing now is when I do my salad, I have like 10 different vegetables every single time, just from that concept. I bet you that's going to help me, especially with my microbiome. And so I'm really testing things out. I want to evaluate this more, but that's just my theory. And I think it's really interesting.
I do too. I think that's fascinating. I think we're about to learn so much more. I'm so grateful that you have that huge, like for me, that was a light bulb moment. Oh my gosh, weeds. And they had more protein sometimes. And yeah, and you can train your cows. That's genius. So is there anything else you'd want to say on the health impact? Because I want to know, what do you think you're doing? Obviously they're eating weeds. Is there any other steps that you're taking, supplements you're giving, things that you're doing to kind of differentiate the way that you're raising your cattle?
No, I don't give them anything else. I mean, I don't give them anything else. And, they definitely they roam, they get a lot of exercise, and they're out in the cold. They don't have a barn. So they're just like, I do a little apple cider vinegar and water, I do that, but I'm sure that's not the big factor. But yeah, that's, I'm not doing anything else, but what I'm curious, what I would like to do, and I would love, and I do have some connections to do this, but I'd love to take this food, like especially even my beef or even other plants, and that are grown in a similar way with all these good microbes, and then just take someone who's sick, and just have them eat these foods for a while. I'm like, not just the keto diet, but the higher level stuff, and to see how much health, because that's where the research has never been done. Going to a nursing home or an assisted living home and just feeding these people some of this food,
Mm.
for 6 weeks and just see what happens. See what happens to their Alzheimer's. See what That's what I'm really interested in doing. And I think my theory is that they'll do much better because I'm really in tune with foods. And when I even eat my beef, even I buy grass fed too. And when I have mine, I'm like, wow, I definitely feel a difference. And I'm not just making this up. Like,
Yeah.
so the healthier, the better. But um, now if we compare that to regular grain fed, like when I go, if I eat some grain fed, I'm like, wow, now it really stands out because
Mm.
now I can compare it. But before I didn't know the difference, but I'm like, God, I don't feel too good when I eat that. So, but before I was like, yeah, I'm just used to feeling that way.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I wear an aura, and I can always tell, like, for some reason, when I eat regenerative beef, it really elevates my score in a way that it does. Other foods don't seem to do it. And this is something, I mean, obviously very hard to identify, but this is after years and years and years of wearing it. So I think we've kind of covered the health argument, but I'd love to hear about, do you think that beef and animal agriculture is environmentally destructive in all cases? And is that a motivator for you?
I think honestly, it is the political agenda that's unfortunately pushing a lot of other things that are not good through, and a lot of people have drinking the Kool-Aid to that, and they're going after the cow, the farmer, which is completely bad to the bone. I mean, because especially these farmers that are these small farms, really, you're gonna start going after that because the cows are the problem, really? What
Mhm.
I mean, it's when I speak out on this topic, which if I do, they'll shut my channel down, so I have to withhold my communication on that. But honestly, it is the tool that certain companies or whatever are using to push certain agendas through, unfortunately. And and unfortunately, a lot of people drank the Kool-Aid, and it's um it's going to end up being a bigger problem down the road. And people are going to like, oh wow, that didn't work. And I mean, just think about how these farmers that do grass fed and grass finished, I mean, how good that is for the land and the carbon that's put back in, and the micro and the, no longer needing the NPK because you're using natural fertilizer, and then you're working with the land. And we've been doing this for a long, long time. And then this come to say that is affecting global warming or destroying the culture. Um, what about all the wheat fields and the soy fields? Like you have to take out the forest, and now we have less forest, and then now we have less oxygen production, and there's just so much false information out there. And I wish I could actually speak more freely about it.
Yeah, no, no, that was exactly what I was looking for. And the topic I want to end on is, you're a keto guy, right? And so there's this big push against animal products. A lot of people believing that they are the primary driver of disease, for at least when as far as diets are concerned. But then we have things like low carb, and we have things like keto, and we have the Walls protocol, and all of these animal intake product inclusive diets that are doing amazing things. So can you talk about the keto diet? What does the research say about it? What have you seen in your clinical practice? What are its benefits, and who is it beneficial for?
When you do keto, and especially the high quality, and you have food that actually contributes to health, and then you hear people that, oh, keto kills and keto does this to your kidneys, and oh, all the beef is going to cause your cholesterol to go up, and then you look at their studies, and there really isn't any studies on grass. They're not using the grass fed because there isn't any studies. I personally have a chance to work with and observe tens of thousands of people. I mean, I have like over 6,000 success stories on my website. 6,000. So first of all, I didn't pay anyone to do those. They volunteered. Those are real. They're not fake. And you might say, well, it's not scientific, but if you have 6,000 people and you see before and after pictures and all this stuff, it has some weight. It has some weight. Even better than a study, I think, because you have people coming out and just telling you. Look at any of my videos and read the comments on this success story after changing the life.
Mm.
Um, Anytime someone kind of attacks that diet, I want to know, what diet do you recommend? And they never tell me, of course, because I would love to find a better program that will get you healthy, and then I'll look at it, but no one's ever showed me that. So, I work with people. It's extremely there. I mean, like even beef, for example. I mean, it's one of the healthiest things that you can eat. It has all the nutrients, right? Like even hamburger, I eat a lot of hamburger. I feel the best in hamburger, and it has fat in there. Sometimes they put other different organ meats in there. What versus you're going to have just like chicken? What like soy burgers? I mean, how can you even come close to the comparison? So it's good for it's really better for the land, for the environment, for your health, for the animals. I mean, across the board, there is no downside. So I looked at this very intensively, and it's the greatest good, to do this, and it's for everyone. And actually, I lied. It's not as good for certain industries that sell refined carbohydrates and sugar. It doesn't
Yeah.
support them. So it would literally decrease the need for medication. So then, of course, it's not good for big pharma. So that's really behind this whole thing. You have these big companies that are using all sorts of PR campaigns and organizations to try to discourage people. And that's why, I'm trying to get these videos out to get people to try it themselves, because once they try it and it works, then they won't have to drink the Kool-Aid. They tried it. They know it works firsthand.
Yes. And so you said, over 6,000 stories of success following a healthy keto protocol. What changes are they seeing? What metrics, what independent variables are we working with?
Of course, the weight, but also mood changes, right? No longer depressed. I had a guy, he was completely depressed. He wanted to commit suicide. So he goes in his room, locks the door. He decides to starve himself. So after the third day, he started feeling better. Wow, what's going on? He is fasting, right? So that's one thing I recommend is fasting. And then he's going to the videos, and he happens to see my videos of fasting. And then he gets in the ketogenic diet, flipped his whole life around. No longer depressed, happy guy, no longer angry. So mood changes, cognitive improvements,
Wow.
people feeling dementia, all of a sudden not feeling dementia, lots of energy, great profiles, less medication, great cholesterol profiles, no longer having diabetes, metabolic syndrome. Even type 1 diabetics take a lot less medication. I mean, just it goes on and on and on and on. So that's very exciting to hear that. So
yeah. Is that where you start people? Like, say I am someone who is just now learning about the power of food. Do I jump into keto, a healthy keto, or is there a progression that you kind of recommend?
It's really I don't even recommend supplements until they get the basic core eating plan in. Okay, keto and intermittent fasting together, right? And so those two together are the most powerful thing. Now, some people can't do both, so we do one of them. Okay, do what you can. Something is better than nothing. And then they start that, they do more, they see it works, and then they learn more, they keep adding it, keep refining it, and then it's a new lifestyle. And then they do it long enough where they see the results. So because you have to do it consistent, right? You can't sort of do it and expect the results. So I know it's the right diet because I get a lot of compliance, and the compliance comes from results. And so I don't have to really use a lot of motivation and come on, try hard. I don't use any of that anymore. So because it's not hard, you get rid of your cravings. You're no longer hungry. So that makes it easier. It tastes good. It's really the ultimate thing to do, because it handles so many problems, and it's actually really simple once you kind of learn about it.
Okay, I'm going to ask you two more questions, and then you'll tell us where to connect with you, and you can combine these two. Do you think keto for women is as beneficial? Do you see that? And then what does your day in diet look like? Like, what are you eating for breakfast, lunch, dinner, whatever?
Absolutely. There's been some ideas that, oh yeah, women are really different, and you have to do a different keto plan. And well, let's just take menopause, right? All these hormones that are now were produced from the ovaries are now produced by the adrenals. And one of the big things is if you go low cholesterol or low fat on menopause, that's a really bad thing. All of these hormones, testosterone, progesterone, estrogen, even cortisol, are all made from cholesterol. You must keep your cholesterol high. Animal products have cholesterol, not plant. So that's number one. Also, like some people say with fertility, well, you're lowering insulin, so you're gonna automatically help a woman to be more fertile by lowering insulin, making them less diabetic. It's really healthy for lactating women. And then as far as the thyroid goes, um, you're gonna ketones are more efficient, so the thyroid doesn't have to work as hard. So sometimes you're going to see the thyroid hormones go down a little bit, but it's always going to be within the normal range. So it'll be low normal. But the thyroid stimulating hormone in the pituitary won't ever change. So it's not a thyroid problem. It's just a more efficient body that needs a little less thyroid hormones.
Okay.
What do I eat? I my first meal is maybe one, two, maybe three. Now I would probably just eat one meal a day, but I do have a hard time eating that many calories, and if I don't eat enough, I will lose more weight, and I'm not trying to do that. So I'll do my first meal is I like the eggs, 4 eggs. I'll do bacon, and so I do mainly my protein that meal, and then for dinner I'll do a big salad, like it's huge, right? And I'll do a whole bunch of stuff on there. I might do some Parmesan cheese, olive oil, the whole thing. And maybe I'll have a little bit of protein. Maybe I'll do a burger patty or some pork, which is very natural and very high in vitamin B1, by the way. I do eat a lot of pork, but it's definitely not from the local grocery stores, from the farmer's market. And I'll do sometimes some mushrooms. I'll do some avocados, some fish sometimes. I'll do cod liver in a can. It's wild caught. It's actually like it's really good. It's like pudding. It's like it doesn't taste fishy at all, but it's extremely high in omega-3 on steroids. So cod liver in a can. So I'll do some of that, and so that's just a little example. And of course, I'll have lately I've been doing my beef every night, and also I really lately like venison. So of course, the deer that we have eats all the food around our property. So you can imagine it's probably going to be the same profile.
Yes, amazing. Okay, well, thank you so much. This has been incredible. And like I said, being involved in that project, yours was one of the people and your farm was what I wanted to learn most about because the data was so incredible. So last, tell us where we can connect with you. And then is there anything else that you think we missed that you'd like people to know?
Yeah, you want to find more about me, just go to drberg.com, but you can also just find my YouTube channel and subscribe because I release a video a day, and I have 6,000 videos. So anything you want to know about, just kind of type in that topic, because I have a lot of different type of topics. I'm just so interested in different things. So you'll find a video on there, and I have some really interesting ones coming up. So you probably want to see those, and they're related to some cutting edge data that I just kind of stumbled on. So I'll be curious how people react to some of the data that I'm going to share actually this next week. So yeah, I think we covered everything. And so I appreciate the interview.
Yeah, awesome, Dr. Berg. And continue all your amazing work. And you can come back here anytime.